Good evening. Welcome to the Lynn Show. And this is the finale of what has been our rookie season. Okay. Obviously, necessity is the mother of invention. So COVID came and we figured out what we can do in lieu of having you in our private space. So we'll create a show and we create a private space. And this is the eighth session of the Lynn Show. And so we're really excited to be wrapping up this little run. Of course, we'll have more coming for you in the future, but it's been incredibly enjoyable. And tonight we have a really amazing show for you. I mean, I think we have an amazing show every time we do this. That's why we're doing it. And I think the beauty of this show, which is really the brainchild of everyone I work with in Manhattan, is really to get the community together. And to have people come on the show from our community, from New York City, young professionals, leaders, people who are friends and patrons and believers in the work that we do and in the mission of Jewish continuity. And it's been a beautiful thing to watch this develop and watch our viewership grow, and of course to bring people in. So this is like a real big group hug kind of so to speak, and trying to figure out what are the things that are on our minds and things of interest and things of hopefully, strong spiritual content as well, which may have led you to the question of how is it that tonight's topic, the future of retail, is going to be parlayed into something spiritual by yours truly, the rabbi. Okay, but I'll keep you in suspense. We're going to get there. But I will say that tonight our subject matter is really, I think, on everyone's minds. And it's a big question mark of what's going to be in the future and where we're going. And it's one of the corners of conversations about the uncertainty of our future, something which is so habitual for us, something so familiar as so many things, but representative of a loss of that type of familiarity, the confidence in what we thought were our coming days and our habits. And there's no question that the world of retail, where the world of what we call in Hebrew the shuk, which is just the marketplace, which is out there presenting to you and having a firsthand experience as part of that presentation of the things that I need coming together in a society where people are providing needs and there's demand and those demands are getting met. So all of that was in the process already of changing and will continue to change, obviously, some maybe even very drastically. So tonight's guest, Mr. Paul Ghermazian, is here as a friend, and as a mentor, someone who has been involved in our circles for now quite some time. And his family is a very prominent family in the Jewish world, not just for business, but in all areas of leadership, of idealism, of support for Israel, of Jewish learning and continuity, education and philanthropy. Really, he's here as an amazing man himself, but he is bringing with him an entourage of family and friends in their business and in their life's mission. So we're really excited to speak with him tonight. I'm excited to get to hang out with him. And I think that there'll be a lot of very interesting things that will come from it, of course, and information I think that will be pertinent and something to hear from an expert. That's the way to go. Okay, so that's what we have on tap for tonight. Now, I will say that just to whet the appetite, what does retail have to do with the rabbi? Okay, now it could be that I'm out of a job because we're closing synagogues and closing places, so maybe I'll be at a store near you. But there is an amazing relationship that we have with things and how things are expressions. Most retail, when you walk through malls, are going to be clothing. So I'll have you think about this. Clothing is a deep expression of the inside of a person presenting outwards, and those can be healthy expressions, those can be less than healthy expressions, right? But there's something about the clothing that we wear and our relationship with the things that we have, which really dominate the retail experience. And those things are deeply spiritual. And the axiom of Judaism that addresses those expressions, I think will be very enlightening, profound. But first, since this is the finale of the show, we want to give you a little wrap up of what we have been doing in the past shows. And I want to say this because I want to do this because I want to express gratitude to everyone that's been involved up until now, and hopefully will continue to be involved. not just the guests that we've had and the students who have asked questions and the fun that we've had on the show and the gimmicks and the shtick. It's really been wonderful, but especially to the people who have been behind it and working on it and whose vision it was. Michael Apfel, our producer, who took care of all the technological hurdles and keeps running it very beautifully. We're very grateful to you. And Alana Kovalev, who's really pushing and driving everything that goes on in More Manhattan, but for sure this show. And Bianca Sitzer, who is the visionary here and our producer, and has really been organizing and making this a compelling endeavor. So a tremendous thanks to all of you and to everyone in More Manhattan for your support and ideas. It's been incredible. And to all of our guests and everyone that's come. So I'd like to, I think we prepared something very, very sweet as a little bit of a recap in this finale. And so let's take a look at that, and then we'll get to the meat of the show. Take it away.
Here we go now.
Thank you for that. That was actually really great. It's so nice to see, like, you know, in a moment, in a flash, the fruits of labor and the hard work and all the smiles that are in those pictures, including mine. And so that was really awesome. Thank you for putting that together. And if you missed any of those and that looked interesting, well, these things are all on Facebook Live, so you can just go back and see them, and then you can enjoy them again. Okay, it was really beautiful. Again, thank you to everyone for hard work. And we're looking forward to one more recap reel that will include tonight's guest. So I want to bring him on right now. Mr. Paul Ghermazian, the Chief Marketing Officer for T5 Capital, and which is probably better known to all of you as the developer of the American Dream Mall. So right when you shoot out of the Lincoln Tunnel, you can't miss it. We've been driving by it for 5 years, seeing that, you know, the things coming out and wondering what it's going to be. And so we have with us tonight Mr. Paul Ghermazian. We'd like to bring him on the show and get right into it.
Hi, Rabbi. How are you?
Yeah, good. Okay, great to see you, Paul.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on the show. And I want people to know here, like, I'm like revved, you know, because I heard you before, like you spoke to us, and you're on New Year's Day in the mall, and gave us an open carte blanche, you know, tour of the amusement park and the ice rink and everything. It was an awesome day, freezing cold outside. It was really great to come inside, and of course you told us your story. So I'm like, I know what we got right now and what we can get into. So I'm excited on behalf of everybody that's watching. And so thank you for making the time and for agreeing to come. And we're really, really very grateful. Thank you.
No, absolutely. I'm very grateful to be here. I mean, when Bianca gave me the call, it didn't take much thought, you know, and Rabbi Lynn, and I'm like, he's got a show.
I know. I don't know either. Definitely put me on. So, you know, one of the things I did notice, she sent me some clips. I saw that you do take a drink before, so why not? Let's start. This become the quarantine rite of passage is the evening cocktail. So what are you drinking, Paul? What are you drinking there?
So I've actually gone tequila tonight.
I was thinking about that. I went with an old fashioned because I had Amarino cherries that I found, like kosher ones, like in a specialty market. So I had to go with like a beautiful old fashioned rye and sugars and Amarino cherries and bitters. Like l'chaim to you. We should do this in person.
Amen.
Okay, beautiful. So Paul, we got three things on the agenda tonight. I want to know about you. And we want to talk about the vision of the American Dream Mall before COVID, of course. And then we're going to segue into, of course, you know, where it's going from here. But I think it's really important, and we have some of our community members here to ask you questions. So I'm looking forward to the conversation right now, and let's jump in. I think it's really because this is a community show, so it's important that people know you not just as T5 Capital, but as an entrepreneurial Jew as well. And so it's important to get to know you in person. I would love for you to just give us a little bit. Your story is amazing. Your family story is amazing. I think the point would be just tell us where you come from, really originally, and coming to America, of course, and then how you the quick story about how you got into real estate, what you were doing beforehand, and how you got in.
Yeah. So, well, it's a long story if we go all the way back. I mean, we can circle back on when we spoke, actually January 1st. Which was a beautiful event, by the way. And aside from, obviously my, loving to have done that event, it really opened my eyes to all the great work that you and the organizations all that come together that day, really can do. So I kudos to you first, and
thank you.
Everything you do. So my family is, they emigrated from Iran in the early 70s. Revolution time. My father and his brothers all moved over. They started coming to college in the United States and Canada, at McGill University in Montreal. And they parlayed that, kind of being that very entrepreneurial, on-campus kind of businesses into import, export, with just getting someone to send you that first a person, literally. And parlayed that into a larger kind of traveling auction enterprise, which, as fate would have it, and as I expressed the last time we spoke, brought them to Edmonton, Alberta. At the time was a booming oil town, the Saudi Arabia of the Western Hemisphere, or the Texas of Canada, relative to the US. And the place was just humming and booming. And they entered that space, and they got in and made some investments, and ultimately one led to the other with some great mentors and some great stories along the way.
Right, and you had someone over there that was willing to take a real risk on you guys, right?
Yeah. Happy to talk about that. The conversation we talked about. I'll go wherever you want me to go, and what's great with your
family was in the rug import business, because that's what you can get. You guys know the business, and you had the family connections, but you got into real estate because you're sitting in the middle of Canada and somebody saw something.
Yeah. So it's a great story. So yeah, absolutely. So what happened was these traveling auctions would go place to place, and they would make their way across from the East Coast over to the West Coast.
Right.
You'd hit, New York. The New York area was home base at the time. The Waldorf Astoria was the location for their auctions. And then they would make their way, kind of going west, and decided to, pass through some Canadian cities at the time as they hit the Rockies. So they went up to Calgary, Alberta at one point, did an auction there, and the numbers were tremendous. They did better than they did in the major U.S. cities. And here at the time was a small Canadian town relative to the U.S. And then they moved, somebody tells them, hey, there's another town up north, 3-hour drive. So they make it up north, and they do another auction there, and they realize they sold even more, in the blue collar town,
right,
than they did, in the other cities at better margins, and there's just a hunger. At the end of one of the shows, a real fine Jewish gentleman comes over, and his name is Joe Schechter, and says to my father and his brothers, what felt at the time a bit creepy. I saw you boys. You guys did really good tonight. And they're like, especially those you don't really tell anyone. Also, culturally, you don't really talk about, the things you want to keep things under the radar. And he says, I know exactly how much money you made tonight. At that point, you're like, okay, who is this guy? Like, right. A government official? Is he, mafioso? Is he like, what's going to happen? And he ultimately spins it over and goes, listen, I'm just a Jewish guy from here. You boys Jewish? He's like, yeah, we're Jewish too. And he says, listen, I'm in a bit of a tough spot right now. And he says, my main business is real estate. That's what I do. I know land. Nobody knows it better than I do. I've been doing this my whole life. He's a European immigrant. post World War, and he said, "Listen, I own this one piece of property, and I need to get rid of it, but I just know it's worth so much more. And with the money you guys made tonight, you could buy this property, and it'll be great. You know, you'll do really well." And to this day, when we talk to my dad and my uncle, they kind of say we don't know what possessed us to do this. But they looked at it and they kind of made a calculation. Said, you know what? Here's a friend in need. You know, we've never met this person. We're Persian Iranian Jews. This is a European, you know, survivor post World War II who's here, and he's in a bind. It's one day's work for us. You know, let's take the risk. You know, we'll learn something. But also, worst case scenario, we've just helped somebody out, and it's one night's work. So they. You know, from there they went out. Obviously, they visited the property. They tried to do their best. They didn't really know what they were looking at, and they did it. They bought it, and they went on their way. And you know, Joe had told them it'll take 6 months, and you know, lo and behold, 2 months later, he's calling them and saying, "Hey guys, we have an offer for double. Where do you want me to send the money?"
It's amazing. I just need people like when you're driving down the Jersey Turnpike and you look on your right, you see the, you know, the American Dream Mall, and you think like, okay, a bunch of like, you got to know this whole thing in real estate started with a couple of Jews selling rugs from Persia with a Holocaust survivor over there who had some property needed to move. And next thing you know, Malls of America and the American Dream Malls and what you and your family have built. If you don't see it like from a wide angle lens, you're just missing all like the symphony of the whole thing. Right. So it's amazing. And who you are, especially as a Jew, and how you present that in all of your business workings that the stories that I've heard that we've talked about really is really beautiful. And you know, we'll get into the details of the marketplace, etc. But everyone's got to know who we're dealing with there and where we're starting from. And you got to know, like, you know, there's someone upstairs running the world, and you drive down the Jersey Turnpike, you see what you're seeing, and all the roller coasters coming like out of the Jersey Turnpike. You guys say, yeah, a couple of Jews in Canada were cold one night, whatever it is, they figured it out. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So and then of course you've been working now on the American Dream Mall since when? How long? How many years has this been?
Oh boy, I've been doing this myself for about 8 years now.
Right.
It's been most of my life, longer than my oldest child.
Right. I remember you telling me that. I was sitting in the mall with you. It's like, this is older than my kid. You know, this is like, right. And you're birthing this thing, and we got to get to like the reality of what that nowadays. But like they tell me, my producer tells me this, that you have a cute story. You've been stuck in lockdown like all of us, but you have a cute story about your kids. Before we bring on the guest, let me hear it. Let's get that out of the way, because they said I want something new.
Is that Michael who told you that?
Yeah.
We were testing the equipment out just to make sure before, and we were just chatting about things, and I told him that in confidence. I wasn't.
Okay. He's telling me, get out of him, Rabbi Lynn. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, as everyone's kind of experienced. I mean, we're here doing a video video show. You know, so far away. I don't even know where you are.
Philly.
In Philly, okay.
I can tell New York City behind me.
I know, it's a beautiful background. My son put Sonic the Hedgehog in the back of it. But I was telling, and you know, he had asked me, like, as we were going through things, you know, and we were talking about positioning, and I'm like, and he's like, oh, any funny stories? I said, look, I mean, I haven't walked out behind the camera from the shower. Something that's happened, but I did have a call. You know, one of the things that's been common for me is, you know, we're all at home, and our children are now, you know, face to face with our day-to-day activities. So it's a real big challenge. It's a very big balancing act to obviously manage that and let them know you're giving them attention while you're at work and not getting upset. So I've been in boardrooms.
My kids are actually locked in the downstairs bathroom right now. All 8 of them.
So you know, we all do things, and I've had board meetings, and our CFO, one of the boards I sit on, the CFO was in the middle of her call, and she's brand new. We hired her. Literally, the board approved her employment right before the pandemic, and so she's doing her first official board meeting, giving the financial, and her kid runs in, and she got all flustered, and I just had to tell her it's okay. But my story is different. I was on a conference call with a national sports franchise, one of the biggest franchises. You know, in sports in the United States. And we've been talking for months, even pre-pandemic, about, you know, doing some really great things together. I'm a, you know, big sports fan, and this happened to be in hockey. And so we were talking about, what we could do together, kind of community outreach, teaching people how to play the sport, free equipment, just interaction, and all really a lot of great stuff. And we were sitting there, and obviously I make sure to wear my Edmonton Oilers jersey or T-shirt every time I'm on with them, just to
send you Flyers one.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there, and as luck would have it, I have a little nook that I've set aside where I'm safe. And as luck would have it, my kids came home early that day. They were with their mom throughout the day, and she brought them over a little earlier than I had anticipated. And so the beginning was really sweet. They ran in the middle of the call, hugs and kisses, and everyone on the call, all these executives were like, "Oh, that's so sweet, great." I'm like, "Okay, guys, go play." It's about 15 minutes later. I'm in the heat of my pitch. Like, this is the moment. Like, I'd been practicing this, the angle, everything going.
Right.
Next thing I know, out of my left ear, I'm just hearing like screeches. And all of a sudden they get closer. And I hear like the rumbling of footprints. My door flings open. My two boys come running in. My second jumps on my lap. His head's down here. His feet are in my face. His other brother jumps on top and just is pummeling him. And they're 6 and 5 or 7 and 5 now, but just pummeling him. And I'm on this call trying to bounce. They can hear everything. All I can see is these faces on the screen, just losing it, laughing hysterically. And so I get it. I turn off the camera. I hit the mic. I get everything. I calmed them down. Thank God they were just typical kid stuff over a toy. And I got back. I'm like, I'm apologizing. They're like, "Are you kidding?"
You got the deal.
Missing a great hockey brawl. So
that's right.
So that's the.
Listen, it's a metaphor. It's basically a metaphor for everything that we're going through right now. Like nothing is predictable. Nothing is what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's well, life feels like we're in the middle of Jumanji.
Yeah.
Every day is another level. So. Yeah,
all right, let's get this kicked off here with the details. We've got an expert here in the world of retail and the American dream and Mall of America, and so we have some very eager friends of ours that want to come and ask you the questions that will take the conversation off. Okay, so here we go. First, we're going to bring in Evie Gross. Hi, Evie.
Hi, how are you? Good.
Okay, great. So instead of me asking Paul all the questions, we obviously want to hear what's on your mind and the questions that you guys are thinking about. And then, I'll take it from there, as any good rabbi would, to improvise. Okay. So Evie, nice to see you. You're in Florida now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Okay. We're sorry you're not coming back to New York so fast.
I know.
Okay, Paul, this is Evie Gross.
Evie, pleasure.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I work in commercial real estate as well. And I'm wondering what you're seeing in terms of retailers who are adapting creatively to engage with their customers during this time, and also how the pandemic's shaping your view of experiential retail.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the pandemic's been, it obviously hurts, and the people in the retail industry and the landlords on top of that, are really hurting. Everyone's hurting. So but at the same time, it's really an opportunity. So these opportunities, they fast forward a lot of things that you can do. But I've seen a lot of creative ways of how people have done it. Us ourselves, we're a collection of IPs is how we look at ourselves, right? Of intellectual property, of brands. We don't view ourselves anymore. We stopped a while ago, really looking at ourselves as like a lifestyle, as a mall, and more as a lifestyle brand. And so what we've done, and what our most successful partners have done, is re-engaged on things beyond just the product. So you really have to give people, I think, a sense of community, a sense of belonging, be more in touch. People like you to engage more. You kind of need to be a big sister or a brother, but also pull people into something bigger than yourself. So you kind of got to like bring yourself, there's no room for arrogance, but there's also room for compassion, and then express your brand culture and what that means to you. So, and then understand that everyone else, it's a bit of being a therapist as a brand, So understanding that, look, I may not be able to sell you a product right now, which is what makes me my money. But if you are only selling a product, then you're going to be irrelevant. And so if I can engage with you and share things that are important, so I know that our team, for example, and I'll think about my team as a bit of salesmanship, but it's also a bit of just, I want to speak to things that we did. And as opposed to pulling up certain examples, I can bring up some other ones, but we started posting recipes of cookies that simply reflected our characters with Nickelodeon and DreamWorks, who are our partners. We engaged with Sephora for makeup tips and videos. Those types of things were great. There was a great video that we did. For example, our centers were empty in Canada. I said to Michael, I don't think we're going to put it on, but at some point you guys can go into West Edmonton Mall, their Instagram or their Facebook page, and you'll see a beautiful video that they did where it's kind of, hey, you miss us. So we took our penguins. We have a beautiful penguin habitat, and we let the penguins loose through the building, and we made videos of that. And the engagement of that was so much more than anything else we've ever posted. Right? People were like, wow, you're human. Like, this is happening. We didn't try to hide that it's empty. We took advantage of that. So I think those things are important. As far as the experiential part, I think that the experiential part has been magnified more than ever. If you're only selling a product, again, talking about physical retail, if you're only selling a product, then you're in a bad place. And the point of that is that you're replaceable. And so you need to be an experience. You need to offer the consumer more than they would get somewhere else. We do a lot, we've been doing a lot of that, for about 40 years now. People don't realize this, but West Edmonton Mall is nearing 40. And we, at that point, brought in amusements and aquariums and a water park and an ice rink and put this in this beautiful indoor environment. People thought we were crazy. Now, fast forward today, people are clamoring, like, what can we do? You'll see places like a Lego Discovery. People are chasing that to put them into their centers as a draw. In the past, you see, Macy's and Bloomingdale's, Lord and Taylor, Dillard's, these kind of guys. And those aren't even anchors anymore. They're almost a detriment to your center.
Wow.
So, I can the whole thing. I don't know how deep you want to get into the experiential.
No, the whole thing was already worth it just to hear that retail, or you're thinking, you're seeing yourself as a therapist, so to speak, for people. Even that coinage already was like, gold, a gold mine.
Yeah, and I'll add one more. I'll try to be. I know I can speak to this for hours, frankly. So again, from the landlord perspective, we do a lot of things different. We have our amusements, our attractions, and all that. So to us, that's a driver. I think the retailers going forward as well. I put up a great post recently. But I put up a post recently talking about the Lululemon acquisition of Mirror. And a lot of people were looking at like, Lululemon's buying a tech startup, and they were mesmerized. They didn't understand it. But Lululemon, go back, we actually opened their very first in-mall location. They used to be only street-facing retail. They're a Canadian brand out of Vancouver originally, and then we brought them in and did their first. We had to convince them. It's their number one store across their entire network is their West Edmonton Mall store. And they're the number one retailer per square foot. Again, so remember, their number one store of the number one retailer per square foot is in our center in Edmonton, Canada. Now, they've evolved and they opened an experiential store at Mall of America. What does that mean? So what they did was they created they went a larger format. They put a yoga studio in. They wanted to interact. There's a lot of customization. They've introduced a membership model, and now they've acquired Mirror. So they're taking their brand now into the home. You can now sit down in your house, get everything that Mirror offers, but you can now do a yoga class one-on-one or with a group, kind of like the Peloton thing. But that works so well and is so in tune with their brand and what they're doing. So there's so much more. They want to engage with you in many more ways. You can come into the store. You don't have to buy a thing. And I think that's important.
That's the key. You're saying the idea of a Fifth Avenue store shop is to be on Fifth Avenue in New York is really translating now into so many different dimensions of just the experience, which will translate everywhere else.
But it's, again, value in the past was something different. Value today. So you always got to give value. What does value mean to a millennial, to today's consumer? Value is not, there's value in being the cheapest and just being affordable. But then when you get into a competitive landscape and there's so many products in that category, the one that's going to win is the one that offers you value, and value is beyond just being the cheapest and dollar per dollar. So that's where culture, lifestyle, engagement all come into play.
Beautiful. Evie, thanks for your question. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Very interesting.
I want to bring on now Solomon Birnbaum, okay, who has a question to take us in a different direction right now. Solomon, I think you're on mute. Are you there? Ready to go. Unmute yourself, Solomon. There we go. Excellent.
How
okay, hi.
Guys? Paul, it's good to see you. I actually had the opportunity to work on American Dream at JP Morgan and close that loan with you guys. But I guess my two questions for you are, I guess, how did you grow into the role you occupy today? Obviously stepping into a very big decision-making authority, and then how do you manage decision-making with so many family members at the decision-making table?
Yes, so good question. So for me, I mean, my path it's different, but again, because we are a family business, so I will preface what I'm saying with my ultimate goal was always, I always had in my mind that I planned to come into my family business. It was actually a dream of mine to come in. So I'm going to preface it with that, which influences what my decisions were and how I went about it. But frankly, in a family business, one of the great things is that I grew up in the business. So I started at a very young age, honestly, 7, 8 years old, where I was already walking around the office with my dad, sitting in on meetings. Every Sunday, my Sundays were, although I had fun, my Sundays always ended with me and my father walking our properties. So we'd go there, we'd walk end to end, level 1 from phase 3 of West Edmonton Mall to the end, up the escalator to level 2 because it's a T-shape, back down,
Wow.
Other side back up and down, and then across on level 2. So we'd cover the entire building. And I remember that path is ingrained in my head because I did it. My father would give me, when we travel, my father would give me a camera. He'd give me a voice recorder in one hand and a disposable camera in the other. For the millennials, or they're probably like, what the hell is a disposable camera? But we didn't have cameras on our phones then. So and he would tell me at a young age, anything you see that's great, any new store you see, even the floor, if the floor looks beautiful, take a picture of it. If a store you've never seen, take a picture of it. Anything you see that just gives you an idea, take a picture of it. And make a note. My father walked away and make notes on there all the time. So I grew up in that kind of way. So I took that. That was all the way through. My summers were spent working in our amusement park. So I can tell you I am a horror story to carnivals and stuff when they come to town. It was a great date trick, but I can play pretty much any carnival game you can imagine because I used to work it, whether it's the wacky wire or the spinning ladder. So it was great for dates. Later, I could always walk away with a great prize. So I did that. I worked, whether it was in the office and leasing later on, but also my father would give us a yellow page. He's like, cold call, find tenants. And I had to take the yellow pages and flip through it through junior high and high school and just cold call tenants. I had to walk through downtown Edmonton in minus 30 degrees Celsius weather, which is about the same as Fahrenheit, and find tenants. So I did all that. And then ultimately I ended up in college and did some internships at, I went through a path of finance. So I did some internships at different companies, ultimately landed at CIBC World Markets, which is the investment bank for CIBC, which is a Canadian International Bank of Commerce, one of the 5 big banks in Canada. And I worked there under a wonderful mentor, Daniel Geltuch, was a really great guy. Took me under his wing. I was a semiconductor analyst. We did some really great stuff together. I loved it. And then, things were going really well. And I got offered a job. What happened was Daniel, my mentor, his boss, who was a giant in the telecom era, decided to leave CIBC. And he was in Denver. So Daniel, not wanting to move to Denver and taking the position, called me and said, would you take the promotion and move to Denver and run the team? And I can say in hindsight, I'm kind of torn. I think if I was doing it again, I may have taken the job. But I sat with my family and told them, I think I want to do this. And my dad looked at me and goes, you know what? If you're good enough, and I would have actually been, the youngest person in that position on Wall Street. I was in my early 20s, and it was an incredible position to take. I would have been the youngest guy in the entire industry. And my dad said, well, you know what? If you're good enough, they think you're good enough to go there and they want to give you that kind of responsibility, then I want you to come here and work with us. And again, if I was doing it again, I would have worked a little bit longer outside the family, because I just think you learn a lot. It's worth it, even if you have something. But that brought me back into the fold. And, and then once I came in, it was kind of like, let's jump into development. What's our pipeline? What assets do we have? Where are we undervaluing? Where can we create more value?
This was before or after the West Edmonton Mall?
This is, we already had Edmonton and Mall of America. So Mall of America was in the early 90s that opened up. So I remember the grand opening, but I was about 10 years old when I was there. So at that point, we just had other things. I think people don't realize, but we are, at one point, we're the largest single, private landowner in all of California. We do a lot in Nevada on the West Coast, single family home development, commercial development, residential single family detached homes, and master plan communities are big for us. I mean, that's where we started. We buy thousands of acres at a time. And then we also land bank. So we had a lot of that. So I kind of came in and said, okay, what can I do? Las Vegas was a big part of what I did. That's where I started. We were doing a lot of development there. A lot of heartache. I mean, that's a whole other conversation we can talk about. But I kind of took that and pushed through. I did an expansion at Mall of America. We added a lot of retail. We added our first hotel. After I started, we now have 2 hotels. We've expanded the retail, and we've got an entire plan for what's phase 2 and an expansion at Mall of America. Is super exciting. We're doing an indoor water park there and stuff. I mean, again, COVID's kind of put a lot on hold. Right. But we've developed a lot and we've achieved a lot in that time, and I'm very proud of that. And I've been happy to contribute to this, multi-generational company.
Amazing. Paul Solomon, thank you for the question and for opening the door to get more personal. I hope everyone out there is hearing it the way I'm hearing it over here. It's like, you have obviously a tremendous drive, and you have mentorship, and as a young man, what you were exposed to and what you were trained, how you were trained to think and to be looking for opportunity, and then that drive and yeah, the family is a very important thing. Obviously, I mean, I know you're a family man. And I know that my son was in a Ghermazian family camp for many years, and heard all the stories of your father and the lessons that are taught beyond business in life as well. All these things are, and this is kind of my rabbinic message for everybody out there. What you're hearing are principles, right? And first of all, Solomon, thanks for coming. It's good to see you. Okay, thank you for joining and asking a question. But what you're hearing here are principles in business, principles in ethics, principles in life, and in one's Jewish identity, for sure. I mean, the story that I've always found most amazing that I heard from you was when you were in, I think, Atlanta or something. You're doing a deal with some guys, and you take a yarmulke off, not put it on, and your father's like, anyone that you would need to take a yarmulke off for, you're not going to do business with them. Yeah. The Almighty will take care of things.
Yeah, he told me his words were, if they don't want to do a deal with you because you have a yarmulke on your head, right, that's their loss, not yours.
Right.
And
I remember it. Right. Powerful.
Yeah, and it was yeah.
Well, I want to use a little bit of our time here at the end. I want to fire away some questions at you. Okay, I'm going to fire. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to fire away some questions at you, and then I want you to give me your quick answers to them, because I think this is on people's mind. We got a lot of submissions. Okay. Sure. First of all, there are 1,000 malls remaining in the U.S. 60% of department store realtors as anchor tenants. Green Street Advisors, I don't have to tell you, says that more than half of these are going to go by the end of next year. JCPenney's, Macy's, etc. Right? 41% of malls in the whole country. So what's going to happen with all? If they're right, what's going to happen with the vacant space? What's that going to turn into?
So I think it looks like a lot more gloom on the surface when you hear these stores closing than it actually is. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one, not all malls or properties are created equal, right? So, you know, the number one thing is location, 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 right? That's the thing. So that's that. And now you combine that with the reality that most anchor tenants actually pay little to no rent in the centers, number one. So there are very little effect on the bottom line. Second is that they're not really draws anymore. I mean, when was the last time you went into Sears?
Right.
You know, there's a reason why that these stores are failing, because they don't bring, again, that value proposition to the consumer. And what they use.
So what's going to go in their place?
So, you know, it's different for everybody. But what's important just to remember is, you know, we had this at Mall of America. We were happy to take back the space. I'm getting a space back that my anchor tenant, you know, that tenant is paying $2 a square foot. My cost on that space is beyond that, and I'm leasing spaces at over $100 a foot. So if I take back that portion, that space, and at least
including the movie theaters,
and yeah, any of it. I mean, the movie theaters, actually, movies are a different thing. I think movies, there's a play for that. But as far as what could go into them, it really depends. I think, you know, a lot of places are going into the experiential, so it's entertainment concepts. So that if you're in a B or C tertiary market and you're not going to get that, then I think a supermarket, a big box retailer like a Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, stuff like that is a great option. These are retailers that are growing and have a niche market. Other places are lifestyle things. I think there's a lot of opportunity that people forget is that most shopping centers are also now, you know, where they started on the outskirts of town, they're now in the middle of prominent suburbs. And that real estate is worth a lot. I think residential developments and other things are a great asset. And you can reduce your retail footprint, put in, let's say, residential, and then you've got a more 24-hour environment, and then you can also lease around that.
In line with that, I mean, there's a bit of a migration now away from the cities with COVID. That's what people are predicting, and of course, there are underperforming malls that are outside of the cities over years. Do you think there's a trend that might change because of COVID? Because working remotely is now going to become so much more the norm.
Our sub-market or sub-centers going to find some level of success? People are staying closer to home.
Right.
No, I don't, unfortunately. I mean, I you know, I have friends that I'm close with the owners of these centers, and I think, unfortunately, they're the ones that are going to get, you know, they've already been hurt, and this is just going to hurt them more. I think at the end of the day, again, you have to present value or something unique to the consumer. And your average BC center is cookie cutter and full of just very simple retail concepts that are almost commoditized.
Right.
So if you're not giving them a reason to come to the building, it's much more convenient to sit at home and take out your phone and just be like, clickety clockety click, and it's at your door. Sometimes even same day delivery now.
Right.
Or next day delivery, and there's a convenience factor. So there has to be more to that. And also, the United States is just over retailed. There's just way too much retail per square foot. So it needs to be a consolidation. Our business approach to that is that, well, where are they going to go? They're going to go to the best real estate. They're going to go to the best locations. Mm-hmm. It's really more of a representation of your brand. Again, remember though, 70% plus of all retail sales are still done in brick and mortar.
Now, okay, that just begs the biggest question over here with COVID. Obviously, you're not an infectious disease expert. I'm sure you're consulting with them, but like, give us your, you know, where I know it's always great to say no, it's opportunity. That's what it is. But I mean, your greatness is the experiential market that people come. I've been to the Great American, you know, Dream. Like I've been there. Like I see what's going on, and this was, you got ahead of the curve with. So that's your vision and your foresight. How do you think this is all going to be affected? The word experiential, at least in my old business of theater or my new business of rabbinics, we're feeling very, very, very challenged by this when we need to be in the confines in the same space of people. Give me your you know, over the horizon view on that.
Yeah, so I think the biggest mistake anybody can make is assuming that now what's happening now, like making fundamental changes to your business plan based on what's happening on an outlier scenario right now.
Right.
You know, I was listening to the CEO of Saks, and he was speaking on CNBC, and he said, you know, the anchor asked him, you know, oh, are you going to change your apparel, you know, kind of mix because people are staying home? Are you going to put maybe more athletic, you know, kind of like the yoga, you know, that sports apparel where it's just comfortable. Right. You know, women are sitting at home now, even the working women, and they want to be comfortable, and you know, everyone's wearing sweatpants. So, you know, who's buying a cocktail dress? And he said, look, I'm not going to change and take that risk now to do that because this is who we are and this is what we give to our customer. So that's kind of, as a long-term kind of business plan, you don't want to make kind of knee-jerk reactions to your fundamental business, because whether, you know, this is here for a month, 2 months, 3 months, or all the way to, you know, the holiday season, ultimately it's going to end at some point. Either we all just get it and we're immune to it and life goes on, or that 12-month threshold for a vaccine will be hit at a certain point, right? You know, they're testing them out, so it'll come. Sure. Right? I don't think there's any argument about that. So at some point, COVID will be, you know, in our memories, and you know, our children, our grandchildren will be calling us and interviewing us at school because they have to interview somebody who survived COVID. Days. But you know, so you take that, and so I don't think you should make fun of it. But in the interim, you do need to do something. So in one sense, it's engaging, doing things like this, right? Where we've now managed to find a great medium. You know, we can talk, have a great time. People are watching us. We have a show. Right. In some ways, this is even more convenient than it would have been at another time. And we can have a greater impact than we did before.
Sure.
Then once we're open, I mean, look, West Edmonton Mall in Canada is open. Mall of America is now actually open. We're taking in customers.
Okay.
About 75% of our retailers are open. And what's really great is, I mean, we're seeing great turnout and people are coming. And what's interesting is our conversion rate of customers who come in and ultimately make a purchase versus not is tremendous, exponentially higher than it was pre-COVID. People have been pent up. They've been sitting at home and they're looking for things to do. So they're coming in, and if they're coming with a purpose, and they want to buy something. As far as
amazing how it's just an expression of freedom. You know, freedom means I can go and I need these things. I got 3 boys, 5 girls in this house. The things, the packages that are coming in every day, they need like our own delivery box. I'm building into the side of the house, right? But it's like there's no question to get out there and express it. There's so many things, and I think that, you know, really you honed in on it. That brands for so long have been working on a culture and a community and an expression. And really what we're seeing, what is that there's an innate drive to express and to connect. And when brands give you the packaging and the language and the opportunity for expression and identity, those are such strong drives. You're telling me those drives are pushing us. Okay, it's good for the numbers on your side, but it's really pushing us into through the difficulty that need to really express.
I think always remember, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We're social. We need that interaction. We need things to do. I mean, we're all, you know, we've all been home for a while now, and at a certain point, we're going to come out. So look, it's a painful time in certain respects. Landlords, you know, myself included, you can just Google Ghermazian and Mall of America, you see the headlines of stuff. So we're all hurting. We're all have things that we need to do. No one's oblivious to that. But I think that, again, this is something that is unexpected, but has propelled people to do things. You know, what we had in our pipeline and plan to do over the next 5 years has been, brought forward now, and we're able. We have some really exciting things planned ourselves.
Great.
Some other people and other brands are doing some really great things as well, and I think that, you know, the world's going to be different when we come out, just because people have done that. But I think we're going to have some really great times, and we're going to get back to normal.
Great. Paul, I'm really grateful that you joined us tonight. And I wish I could stay and hang out more and have another round of my drink's done, so I got to get downstairs and make another. But it's really great to see you, and the positivity is great, and of course the expertise and the insight. And I think there are people that there's a community being built out there, even through the space of retail, and there are principles that you bring to the table, which I think are really, really reputable and enviable. Really are. And I think you're a mensch, and you're a leader like that, and a great friend. And I look forward to bringing you back into the sphere over here of our community. And Paul Ghermazian will be speaking for All Me Professional Circles July 7th. I think we have a little plug before we leave tonight. Let me give you that plug.
Thank you.
And I'm going to say,
is the American dream still alive? All Me Professional Circles presents Paul Ghermazian, the Chief Marketing Officer of T5 Capital and the developer of the American Dream Mall, as he discusses the future of indoor shopping and the survival of the American dream.
Okay, I think we did it tonight.
Anyway, I'm gonna try to not. I'm not gonna. I gotta work on not letting it get to my head. I'll hang out with my kids for a while, and they'll remind me that.
Never mind. They keep it. I've never been more humbled. It's great. It's been good for business like that. Anyway, Paul, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Really, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Rob.
Okay. Best of luck with everything.
Please
all
continue
I love
what you're doing, and it's a wonderful organization, and you guys do incredible things. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
God bless us all, and everyone. I hope everyone stays healthy and safe. And
you too, to yours as well.
All at our centers and everywhere else when we're through this on the other side.
Thank you. Good night, Paul. Thank you very much. Okay, and thank you to Evie and Solomon for your questions. I found that fascinating. I hope you did as well. And I think a lot of great insights there. And I'm particularly moved by the idea that retail is not just expression, that I get, but like almost a therapy, and brand culture is like, it's a community that's created, and it's fascinating. And that's what's driving. I think it's an amazing thing. It's driving people back into that space as an expression. Acquisition is an expression of freedom, and the ability to interact with it in an experiential way, not just the roller coasters, but to be able to be there and to interact with that deep-seated need we have for expression. There's so many things. Last night I'll leave you with this. I was on a telephone call with a rabbi mentor of mine, and he's an expert in Zen Buddhism and the Eastern religions. And back out there are people that are in a sense running away from the material, and there's a benefit to that, and there's something profound to being able to separate from our material needs, of course, and specifically our clothing and that type of expression, not to separate it from completely, but I'm saying to keep it modest. We got the color scheme going here, black and white. That's it. Okay. But to keep it modest and to be controlled and considerate and creative and humbled in our expression and in what we connect to, but Zen would be like you move away from everything and move away from all the things which are blockages. But it's never been the idea of a Jewish approach. Our Jewish approaches have to engage the world and to recognize that there's a body here, and that body is a temple to the soul, and that soul is yearning to express itself, and the clothing that we wear and the way we express ourselves. And I'm hoping that people are rethinking lots of things during COVID about who I am and how I express myself. And when we run to the malls, we run to the shops, and we think about what do I wear in the streets, what do I wear with my friends, how do I express my inners, my insides, how do they get out and show who I am, what I believe in, how do they inspire me to be that? And the things that I have in the world, that everything's an opportunity for elevation and for greatness and connection, and the Almighty made a beautiful world, and people came to the world and took the raw materials and turned it into things, and there's a need and there's a marketplace. These things come together in a beautiful tapestry and harmony, and in the world of retail is just the stage upon which that plays out. And it's nice to hear that there's a human drive to get back to that place of connection and expression. Okay. And that's what we're going for. We want to be changed people. It cannot be, as my rabbi said to me, it cannot be that after the pandemic, the only thing we learn to do is not cough on someone. We got to be able to really up our game, what we buy, what we have, our possessions, what we wear, what we do, what we need in the world, how it expresses us. These are really things that we deserve to think about, and maybe we really needed to think about. So that's the message I want to leave you with tonight. Once again, I want to thank everyone for their involvement in this season of the Lynn Show, and we will be coming back for another season because by popular demand, Yes, I hope. And I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I'm very grateful for your viewership and for your friendship and your support and all the hard work of the More Manhattan team and the greater Olami circle of people who love the Jewish people and want to see us thrive and want to see us go into the future and be as confident as Paul Ghermazian is about Malls of America and American Dream Mall. Like, we're going to be as confident about the bounty and the P&L sheet for the Jewish people at the end of it, not the money one, the spiritual one. Okay, with that, I'm signing off. I'm wishing you a good night and a beautiful and healthy summer. Okay, look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much. Good night, l'chaim.